My cheating wife threatened my sons and home. My revenge ended her affair and control forever. Marriage is undoubtedly one of life's most significant endeavors. I, for one, hold my marriage in high regard. I've been married to my lovely wife, April, for just over 8 years. We have 2 wonderful sons, Chris and Charles. While I didn't get a college degree, my talents as a mechanic have allowed us to live comfortably in a large home. Despite the lengthy hours I put in at my job, the financial stability it provides makes it worthwhile. My marriage has always been the highlight of my life, and I've worked hard to provide for my family. Unfortunately, it's frequently the minor details that unravel such important promises. In my situation, the descent was triggered by a small blood vessel in my brain. Its closeness to another vessel caused swelling, resulting in a painful migraine headache. I had one such event on a very tragic day. The symptoms were familiar: sensitivity to light, loud noises, and an unpleasant sensation. The unexpected onset of intense agony took me off guard. Without my inhaler, I had no way to relieve the pain. While I still had tablets on hand, they were less effective and took longer to reduce the pain to a reasonable level, preventing me from working. I stumbled into my boss's office and broke the bad news. He instantly took action, summoning his secretary Penny, and ordered her to carefully transport me home, insisting that I not drive. My manager carefully walked me out of the office and down the corridor toward the exit, urging me to leave immediately. Penny helped me lean against the wall to shield my eyes from the intense sun while she walked to her car. I closed my eyes firmly and pressed my hands against my temples, attempting to relieve the pounding ache. As we drove, my vision blurred and the light became unbearable, so I had to keep my eyes closed. The sound surrounding me intensified into an unbearable whirl, and a terrible odor made my stomach turn. Thankfully, Penny knew the way to my house, so I didn't have to give her directions. It seemed like an eternity, but she soon stopped outside my house, assisted me out of the car, and took me inside. I followed her lead, scarcely capable of walking on my own. Once in the kitchen, I told Penny to get the inhaler from the refrigerator. She put it in my hand and held it firmly while I inserted it into my nose, inhaling deeply as the drug entered my bloodstream. Then I requested her to take me to the living room next to the kitchen and help me onto the sofa. I asked her to draw the shades and turn off all the lights, which she swiftly did. After a few minutes, I could feel some relief coming, so I assured Penny she could leave. Gratefully, I thanked her for her assistance and enjoyed the calm and quiet as she left. I must have fallen asleep soon after as the agony subsided, for I awoke later to the sound of voices. The room was dark, indicating that it was likely later in the day. The pain had gone, leaving me sore yet relieved of the migraine's remnants. I sat up slowly and waited, almost expecting the pain to return, but it did not. Thank God she had left. In the dimness, I recognized my wife, April, and her neighbor friend, Robin. Given the darkness and the lights that were still turned off, they appeared to be unaware of my presence. Perhaps April imagined I was relaxing after arriving home early. However, my automobile was not parked in the driveway, so she probably didn't realize I was here. Perhaps I could surprise them both. I rose gently, intending to creep to the entrance and then make myself known. But as I listened to their conversation, I froze. "Come on, April," Robin said. "How was it? Was it as good as before? Give me the details, girl." "It was great," April replied. "Even better than the prior time, I swear, most mind-blowing. The best physical engagement ever. Better than with Chris." "Better than your husband?" Robin asked. "Hell yes," April said. "I adore Chris, but he's never made me feel that way. Never. I wouldn't let him do those things. He'd think I was a tramp. But Carl knows. And I like it. I can't wait until next time." "Aren't you worried Chris will find out?" Robin asked. "Have you considered the consequences?" "Chris will never know. And even if he does, so what?" April replied. "He's too good to leave me. He wouldn't risk losing the children. I'd take them in a heartbeat with a skilled lawyer." "This isn't like you, April," Robin said. "It's worrying. I believe you're making a huge mistake." "I adore Chris truly," April said. "But I refuse to give up what I have with Carl. I want to be passionate with Carl and in love with Chris. I need both, and I won't let go." I had heard enough. Though the migraine had subsided, the pain in my heart was much worse. It clutched me so hard that my stomach knotted and every breath was a battle. My ears rang and my heart raced. Fear flooded through me as if a heart attack were imminent, and I gripped the doorframe until some sense of peace returned to my body. Nonetheless, I kept my presence concealed. With each regained moment of control, rage boiled within me, ready to erupt. With determination, I stood up and entered the brightly lit kitchen. Robin was the first to see me, breaking the silence. Her eyes widened in disbelief before she fell silent. April, noticing Robin's reaction, turned to face me. Her expression quickly shifted from contentment to amazement, horror, and anger. She sprang up and pushed her chair back, confronting me. "How much have you heard? Why were you lurking and spying on me?" she demanded. I met her stare in silence before looking at Robin, who quickly excused herself. "I need to leave. If you need some time away, I can look after the boys." "I'll call you later," she murmured, running out the side door. I watched her leave without saying anything. Left alone, I returned my attention to April, the woman I had loved unconditionally for 8 lovely years I had imagined would stretch into eternity, where we'd grow old together. But tonight, that expectation was destroyed. There would be no forever for us. April ended it all tonight. "Where are the boys?" I asked. "What were you doing while you were having fun with your lover? Did you ever think about them, or were you too busy having fun with someone else that you left them alone?" Now calm and collected, I continued. "The ache remains acute and profound. It will take some time for everything to settle down." April's face twisted with rage, concealing her beauty with ugliness. Perhaps that mask represented the real April, hidden beneath the surface all along. "The boys are with Kay," she replied. "Robin and I went shopping, and Pete kept an eye on them. And I wasn't with anyone else, just Robin." With that statement, she appeared triumphant. The rage on her face turned into smug satisfaction. She finally realized I was at home and inquired, "What are you doing here? Where's your car? And why were you sitting in darkness? Were you spying on me, trying to catch me in the act?" "I arrived home early with a bad migraine," I explained. "George requested that Penny drive me home because I was unable to handle the light. I took the Mercs and fell asleep. I've been here ever since." My stomach twisted and I felt compelled to vomit. Your words awakened me, and what I heard made me sick. "I need to go to the bathroom." With those remarks, I hurried to the bathroom, hoping to empty the contents of my stomach. It wasn't fully successful, but my body did its best. I settled on the bathroom floor, feeling relieved as my body relaxed against the cool porcelain. My stomach finally settled and my breathing became more even. The moisture on my face dried as the nausea subsided. After a few moments, I got up, splashed water on my face, and rinsed my mouth. Once the trembling faded and I regained my composure, I returned to the kitchen where April was sitting, gazing out the window. "I'm going to get the boys and put them to bed tonight," I said, rushing past her. I exited, heading next door to the Andersons. Pete and Robin Anderson were not only our neighbors but also great friends. We'd spent countless evenings conversing and drinking best pals, I mused angrily. I wondered what Pete knew. I should have asked before, knocking on their back door. When I entered, Robin was seated at the kitchen table, conversing with her husband. I sensed she had informed him, as he looked up with sympathy in his eyes. Robin seemed noticeably nervous. "I've come to get the boys. Are they ready to go home?" I asked. I walked past Pete and into the living room where I assumed the boys were with their teenage daughter, Carly. They were crowded around a puzzle with Carly watching over them. As I entered, she smiled at me. "Hello, Mr. Phillips. Are you here for them?" When I nodded, she continued, "I'll grab their jackets." I stood there watching them, overcome with melancholy. These situations, which had once been filled with ordinary delight, now carried the imprint of adultery. The innocence of family life was broken by adult greed. In many situations, the damage is irreparable. It seemed like one of those times. "Thank you, Carly. I'll be in the kitchen when they're ready," I said. I returned to the kitchen where Pete and Robin were seated. I looked at Robin and then at Pete. "Did you two know? Did you know she cheated on me, Pete? Did knowing while we were together give you some twisted satisfaction? Did it give you a nasty thrill?" My rage drove me to use stronger language than was warranted, but I needed answers from my dearest pals. I should have sensed something. Pete glanced at Robin, his anger palpable, before responding. "I promise, friend, I had no idea. If I had known, I would have told you straight away. I can't believe my wife knew but concealed it from me. It's despicable. You don't deserve this. I won't apologize for her, but I'll be there for you if you need me." His eyes hardened as he glanced at his wife. I believed him. He would have told me if he knew. So there was Robin and April's secret. "Thank you, Robin," I sneered. "Thank you for making me a betrayed man, a fool who had no need to know his wife was having an affair with another man. I hope that's okay with you, knowing what you knew while thinking about me." I turned to see Carly approaching quickly, smiling as the boys emerged, each clutching a cookie. I prayed silently that Carly hadn't overheard my previous comments, but the expression on her face suggested otherwise. This was the final moment Robin would spend with my boys. That much I promised. I wasn't sure how, but I would figure it out. We entered through the back door and the boys hurried upstairs to change before dinner. I crossed the empty kitchen into the dimly lit living room where April sat, keeping the space dark much like the secret she kept. I lit the space by turning on a nearby lamp and pulled back the curtains, revealing shadows that hinted at the hidden truths of my formerly beloved wife. April was miserable, with tears streaking her eyes, a pallid complexion, and slouched shoulders. All her defiance had melted away, leaving behind the scared woman I had anticipated. However, it felt too late for such a transformation. Instead of providing comfort, her sudden vulnerability horrified me. Was she sincerely remorseful or just scared? I couldn't believe how much had changed in only a few minutes. No, this was the first shot in our power struggle. A deceptive woman who hid her infidelity. Her face revealed her true feelings, not regret, but dishonesty and guile. I confronted her and demanded, "Who is he? What does he give that I don't?" She remained silent until I knew she wouldn't respond. When I turned to go, she finally said, "His identity is irrelevant. It isn't about you, Christopher. I'm truly sorry you found out this way. I never meant to hurt you. I never wanted you to learn this. I'm sincerely sorry you overheard my talk with Robin. Please, you must understand." "It's funny," I said. "No apologies for the action. No remorse for what occurred. Only regret for being caught and for me learning the truth." I shook my head and sank into the comfortable recliner she gave me on our 5th anniversary. I used to appreciate it, but now it was simply furniture. "Please allow me to explain," she said. "Our story doesn't need to end here. We can salvage what we have if only you tried to understand. We could move forward," she begged, using a familiar expression when she sought something I disagreed with. "Can you promise that once it's over, you won't see him again?" I asked, keeping a calm demeanor, but my body tightened, my hands gripping the chair's armrests for stability. April met my gaze with tear-filled eyes but didn't respond. The silence said volumes. She wouldn't stop. I had overheard her statements to Robin. She saw both options and refused to let me stop her. She was unwilling to give him up and sought my approval. "I feel this is your decision," I said. "After dinner, I'll tuck the boys in. Then we can consider our options. Tomorrow, I'll pack my possessions and stay with my brother." Rising, I exited into the kitchen, a safe haven amidst upheaval. It's strange how the kitchen becomes a haven in difficult times. Strange thoughts emerge while your reality crumbles. It's even stranger to discover your world is collapsing. April preoccupied herself with dinner while I spent precious time with the boys in the playroom. Immersed in their game, April summoned us for dinner, causing a raucous transition as I escorted the boys to the bathroom to wash up mundane tasks that anchor us in chaos. Dinner was boisterous. The boys, full of vitality, enjoyed the meal and each other's company in stark contrast to their quiet parents, who were deep in thought about upcoming decisions. The innocence of childhood was melting away. Why do kids want to grow up? They see adult freedom as limitless, heedless of the consequences and obligations. Adults, on the other hand, understand more, yet some disrespect boundaries and consequences. After dinner, April cleaned the kitchen as I took the boys to bed. We told stories until they calmed down, drifting into oblivion where dreams had no bounds. My heart ached while I watched, knowing this too must come to an end. Downstairs, I sank into a chair, clutching it for support. My world was beyond my control. Even though I adored April, her comments rang in my head. "He never made me feel like this, and I'm his tramp." As I considered the alternatives, I couldn't turn away from those words. I felt the love within me vanish. April entered and took her seat. "We need to talk," she said. "I understand how unhappy you are, but you must understand my point of view. What I share with Carl is entirely physical, with the allure of novelty. I expect it to vanish shortly, but I can't seem to break free. It's what motivates me. However, this has no bearing on my feelings for you. He's just a distraction. It will end soon and we can go back to how things were. You simply have to let things run their course." Her words flowed, but I fought to understand. "I'm unable to resist this. I can't quit seeing him," she said. Should I let this continue? Was she unreasonable or simply deluded? Regardless, it must end. "You're clearly the one who doesn't understand reality," I said. There is no us. There is no we. It is just you and him. That's all that remains. It is over between us. Finished. Done. This is not negotiable, and I will not budge. You have to grasp this. Despite 8 years of marriage, you cannot imagine I would condone your affair. But I love you, Chris, she said. You're the only man I've ever loved. I don't even like Carl. Please try to understand. Give me time. Please, baby. Please give me some time for our marriage and family. Take as much time as you need, I replied. Tomorrow I'll contact a lawyer and we'll divide everything equally. I don't want to hurt you the way you hurt me. I simply want this to end now. Emotionally depleted, I longed to retire to bed, seeking solace from the pain. My headache had eased, but the misery persisted. I was unprepared for her next words. Then damn you, she said. I'll fight you every step of the way, taking everything you've got. I'll make sure you don't get custody of the boys, and I'll limit your visitation rights in every way possible. If you don't cooperate, you'll forfeit everything, and I'll still have Carl. You cannot stop me. Remember that. I absorbed her threat. Then it occurred to me that this marriage had ended long ago. The intensity of rage and disdain was not sudden, it was calculated and purposeful. She never worried about injuring me. If she had, she wouldn't have chosen this path. She would have halted it earlier. Instead of ending her affair, she expected my discovery. She chose to inflict maximum misery on me. Love had no place here, only selfishness and the desire to degrade me. As my rage grew, I noticed her face indicating that she had gone too far. Her smile, distorted by her caustic remarks, changed from triumph to fear. I just have one thing to say, April, I said. When you corner a rat, it will fight back. It will fight until the bitter end. If you deny it any means of escape, you should have known that before you pushed me. But now you've done it, and you'll pay the consequences. Please, Chris, she said. I don't want this, but I have no choice. I adore you and will do anything to keep you from leaving. If you don't understand or accept this, I'll fight you. You'll have no choice but to stay with me. I know you. You love me and the boys too much to go. I know, Chris, you'll stay. Goodbye, April, I said. Let the boys know I'll see them whenever I can. I'll gather my belongings and leave. I'll get the remainder later when we can set a time. Upstairs, I rapidly packed a bag for a day or two, just the essentials from the bathroom and several changes of clothes. Not much. After 8 years of marriage, all that was left were painful memories, but I had 2 amazing sons. That was my focus right now. Descending, I discovered April seated near the kitchen entrance. Clearly, she was willing to try again. Chris, please reconsider, she implored. There's no need. Promise me that you'll terminate things with him, I said. You'll never see him again. Just say it, and maybe there's hope. I cannot, she said. I simply can't. I pushed past her, suppressing the temptation to strike her with all my strength. But I knew it would be difficult to contain my own wrath, so I restrained myself. I'll come in the evenings after work so the boys don't notice anything right away, I said. I pulled open the door and went outdoors. It slammed shut behind me as I threw my stuff in the back seat and climbed into my truck, backing out of the garage. I called my brother Clyde on my cell phone. He resided approximately 10 miles away. Since his wife departed with her boyfriend 2 years ago, he's been living alone. She had no idea where she was and seemed unconcerned about her absence. Despite not getting divorced, Clyde refused to let it hold him back. He'd become a heavy drinker, partying with his mates practically every night. We discussed it, but Clyde didn't change his habits. He rarely drank during the day, but he was generally high, perhaps attempting to bury memories. That was my perspective, at least. He listened as I explained and told me to come over. He'd get home later, so I drove to his house, got the extra key from under the flower pot on the porch, and let myself in. Everything was immaculate, as usual. Clyde was far from messy, he was obsessively neat. This had always been the case. It was comforting to see that, despite my life falling apart, his remained unchanged. I grabbed a few beers from the fridge and nestled in just as he had suggested. When he returned, I felt pleasantly drunk. I got another beer from the store and kept drinking. When Clyde came, I informed him of the incident with April, and he joined in, drinking the rest of his beer to keep me company. He reassured me of his support and emphasized our brotherhood. The next morning, I awakened with a severe hangover and a pounding headache. I was fully responsible for my excessive drinking. Despite having grounds, it was not an excuse. I stumbled into the shower and let the cool water wash away the dregs of the intoxicant in my system. Being intoxicated serves no purpose. I looked for Clyde and found a message saying he was at work and would report to me, which was not surprising, given that we both worked Saturday shifts. Clyde and I were employed by a company that rented heavy construction equipment to major contractors across the state. Our reputation as excellent mechanics lured customers from far and wide. Our goal was to keep the machines operating regardless of the obstacles. The job required hard hours but offered sufficient revenue to sustain my family, a responsibility I couldn't avoid. I saw the need to continue generating money to support April's pride and joy, the house. It was big, and I saw it as a safe refuge for our family, giving me great pride to provide for them. April, on the other hand, appeared to see it differently. It was a safety net, a bargaining chip in the event of divorce. She wanted the house for my money, not for our family stability, but to support pleasures for her lover, lavish apparel, and Victoria's Secret lingerie purchases. Despite the fact that I was running late, I cranked up the faucet to drown out these uncomfortable thoughts. I needed to get to work where I could concentrate, strategize, and make judgments, tasks I couldn't complete in my current state. April had evidently planned this in advance, anticipating my astonishment at discovering her betrayal and knowing I would be unable to think straight. She had manipulated the issue to make me the villain for objecting to her affair. I dressed and went to get a box of large garbage bags, hoping to stack the deck in my favor before April left with the boys for her mother's place. Inside, I emptied my wardrobe and drawers into the bags, transferring critical goods from the bathroom to a smaller suitcase stuffed with bags. I loaded them into my truck's back seat and went back inside. I wouldn't leave just yet. I planned to return after work to spend time with the children. I had a lot to think about before making a decision. One thing was certain: my marriage was finished, and April would never again be my wife, lover, or confidant. She belonged to someone else. Now, as I reflected, tears welled up uncontrollably, and I sank to the floor of what was once our bedroom, succumbing to grief. Loss has a significant impact, particularly in the workplace. I immersed myself in my job, working tirelessly even during lunch breaks, eager to block out thoughts of home, wife, and children. Despite the problems of fuel injectors, timing chains, and gasoline pumps, completed the most difficult duties without complaint, consumed with a need to immerse myself in work. 10 hours later, Clyde intervened, asking me to take a break. "Dude, you're killing it," he commented, looking at me with a mix of surprise and anxiety. "You make the rest of us look like slackers." "Sorry, younger brother," I said. "I'm just trying to lose myself in it all, trying to forget my mistakes." I must have been on the edge of tears when Clyde led me off the shop floor and into the break area. Clyde and I had been inseparable since our parents' tragic accident a decade before. He was my best man at the wedding, and 8 years ago, he became godfather to my boys, Chris Jr. and Charlie. I sat at the table, staring blankly as Clyde poured us each a cup of hot coffee devoid of flavor, but comfortingly warm. "Okay, spill it," he encouraged. "Lay everything out." For the next 10 minutes, I poured out to Clyde how April piled every ounce of shame, humiliation, and contempt on me. I revealed her intimidating threats and premeditated efforts to sabotage any reaction on my part while protecting her affair. I remembered her disdainful expression as she boasted to Robin about her tryst, as well as her steely determination and threat to take everything away from me. She made it abundantly clear that her lover's gratification was most important, unwilling to give him up for anything. Clyde was taken aback. He had always admired April, thinking of her as a virtuous woman and devoted mother. His brother had never mentioned any marriage problems, leading Clyde to believe their relationship was strong. Clyde found it painful to observe Chris's pain and anguish. Chris was a rock of strength, a devoted parent, a dependable provider, and a confidant to the boys in the garage, always available when needed. Over the years, he had gone above and beyond to assist others. Clyde's disbelief gave way to wrath. How could April have done this to Chris? What exactly was wrong with her? His anger grew as he saw his brother and closest friend crushed and defeated. "Chris, listen to me," he said. "You cannot just accept this. We need to take action. Let me and the boys help. This is awful." Clyde's rough features reflected anxiety. It was real concern for his sibling. There was a palpable feeling in the air. I returned his look with a forlorn face. "What can I do? If I divorce her, she'll deprive me of everything: child support, alimony, the home, the car. I'd never hurt the children. She's using them as pawns against me. And now the idiot she's fooling around with will take their father's place. He's an imbecile who believes it's acceptable to bed another man's wife. I'm powerless." Clyde shook his head vigorously. "To hell with both of them. I used to adore April like a sister, but she's made her bed and now she'll have to lie in it. We have to go after both of them. First step, find out who he is. That's the easiest part. Let me make a few calls and then we'll talk, Clyde declared. I just shrugged. All right, but I'm not sure what you're expecting me to do. She doesn't talk about him with me. Doesn't matter, Clyde said. We'll ferret him out and expose him in the same way we would anyone else. And you realize you can't have April back, right? What she's done renders reconciliation impossible. If you take her back, she'll never respect you again. No way, dude. She's now another man's plaything. His statements caught me by surprise for a second, but then a small smile appeared on my face. You're correct, I said. She isn't my darling wife anymore. Last night I learned how quickly love can turn into hatred, and my resentment toward her today surpasses any affection I've ever had for her. Last night she stole it from me and used it against herself. We talked for a little longer before wrapping up work without any additional hours. We went to a local tavern with no intention of drinking. This was business. Plans had to be created. Clyde made a couple more calls before we settled down to strategize. I was moved by my friends' unfailing support. They didn't probe, just wanted to know how they could help. We worked together to design a reasonable approach. At 7 o'clock in the evening, I pulled into my driveway and entered the home. It struck me as humorous this was no longer my house. It was simply a place to stay. I took off my jacket in the kitchen and made my way to the living room. There, April sat on her chair, watching our 5-year-old twins, Chris and Charlie, play a computer game. I stood there, retaining the sight in my head indefinitely. April met my eyes as I looked at her. Her slight smile expressed her true hatred for me and our facade of family unity. It was all a ruse created by her lies. Now I saw and understood. I returned her glance with scorn and no smile. When I turned away, she averted her gaze and headed toward the kitchen. I looked into the fridge and pulled out what appeared to be leftover fried chicken and mashed potatoes to reheat in the microwave. I wasn't hungry, but I wanted a distraction. I had planned to speak with the boys before they went to bed, but Clyde encouraged me to postpone the topic for now. However, when I did address them, it would be the first move in the struggle started by April. I might have lost, undoubtedly, but I'd fight until the end. Seated with my plate, I began to eat slowly, the food providing little satisfaction, but vital for survival. About halfway through, April arrived at the table and sat across from me. I cast a fleeting glance at her before returning my attention to my meal, eating carefully. No words were exchanged. I didn't have anything to say to her at the moment. "Do you feel more composed after last night?" she asked. "Can we have a reasonable conversation now?" Her remarks took me off guard. Civilized adults. What about a cheating woman and her betrayed spouse? That was more accurate. Choosing silence instead, I held back my answer. "Are you going to ignore me now?" Acting childishly and silently, she said. "I had higher expectations for you, Chris. We need to think about the children right now. You must remember your responsibility as their father in this home." "Am I really their father now?" I replied. "It makes me wonder. Perhaps I should confirm with some testing. Let's keep this civil and without anger. Just a simple statement." April's face clouded with rage, ready to retaliate when I quietly intervened. "April, be mindful of your tone of voice. If you begin to shout, the children may overhear. Remember them, the ones you accused me of ignoring last night when I became agitated. So now it's your turn to recall. Consider what you've done to their world. You not only had an affair, but you broke our entire family. Think carefully, April." April hesitated. Her voice dropped to a hiss. "You didn't appear to take my statement seriously last night. I expected you to get over this and go back to normal. Nothing will change in the home. I still love you, and you're my husband. That hasn't altered. Neither you nor your children will lose anything familiar. I keep my affairs private, performing my business while the kids are at school and you're at work. You've got nothing to lose. I'm always here for you." I remained mute, continuing to eat slowly, keeping a stern countenance devoid of emotion. My eyes revealed nothing as I glanced at her. Despite the lack of a spoken answer, my eyes communicated everything. April gradually began to understand the enormity of the situation for the first time. She felt a pang of terror. "What do you plan to do? Will you make it harder for me? I hoped you loved me enough to give me this time alone. I told you last night that he took nothing from you and that I'll always support you. Why can't you understand that?" April became more upset as I continued to stare at her, quietly chewing my food. Finally swallowing, I recommended, "Let's postpone this talk until after the kids have gone to bed. I listened to you last night despite how uncomfortable I felt. but I won't engage in this conversation while the children are awake." April seemed to regain her calm and resumed smiling. "Thank you for that," she said. "I believe you made some true points, yet your remarks hurt me. I'll take the boys upstairs shortly, and then we can talk." She passed by me and placed her hand on my shoulder. I flinched involuntarily at her touch, prompting her to withdraw her hand. The anger I felt at that small action was palpable. I tried to be myself among the kids, despite the fact that everything was going to change. However, I had come to accept that April's actions had ruined everything for me. Perhaps I should just be the compliant husband and accept her terms, waiting until she was finished with her affair. After all, hadn't she said she still loved me and wanted to stay married? But I knew I could not do it. Not now. Not ever again. Around 9 o'clock that evening, April entered the room where I was sitting, letting out a deep sigh. She sat in a chair and smiled. "I put them to bed and they fell asleep," she said. "They're too big to tuck in, yet they still say goodnight and pretend to sleep. They're good boys." I nodded in agreement. "They're beautiful children," I said. "It's awful that they'll have to go through so much anguish, and I'm not sure how to alleviate their suffering." "What do you mean?" she asked. "I thought you knew that nothing needs to change. Just give me what I want, and we can go back to being the same family. Please be patient. I promise everything will be over shortly. You won't lose anything. I sincerely love you and wish to remain your wife. It's just something I need to do, that's all." I looked at the woman who had been my wife for the previous 8 years. I married her because I couldn't imagine living without her. We had 2 wonderful children and a strong marriage until last night. Now everything was different, and she couldn't see why. I thought it was important. I wouldn't get into the details tonight, but I needed to be clear. "April," I said, "I heard you out last night. You expressed your desires clearly. You said you loved me and wanted to be my wife. You insist that he doesn't take anything from me. You refused to reveal his identity because it was none of my business. And you explained what would happen if I filed for divorce. You've made it perfectly plain that you'll take everything from me without hesitation, exactly as you stated. You've threatened to steal everything, even my boys." That much was apparent. April listened, her eyes angry. She was not satisfied with my summary of her words. Whatever they sounded like, they felt different coming from me, but she understood the truth in what I said. "Chris," she said, "I believe you don't share my perspective on this scenario. I want to underline that this is not about our marriage. Nonetheless, you ignored my words. Why can't you believe me when I say that I still love you and want to keep our marriage?" "What I heard from you last night, April, was contempt. Disdain for me and our marriage," I replied. "When I expressed my frustration, you responded with deliberate threats that you thoroughly weighed before confronting me. Disdain for me despite all my efforts on our behalf. Over the years you ridicule, demean, threaten, and accuse me of misunderstanding you. You were completely aware that I would react just as I did. Why did you assume you already knew what to do with me? Why did you think you had all the answers ready?" I was starting to become angry. Until now, I had remained calm and in control, but this poise was melting away. April's outraged expression irritated me. "You appear to overlook one conclusion from last night, April," I said. "When you threatened and forced me into a corner, believing I couldn't get out, I mentioned it then, and I'll repeat it now. Even a rat will fight a cat when it's cornered and has nothing to lose." With these words, I stood and walked away. As I approached the kitchen door where April was sitting, I halted. "I'm going to stay someplace else for the night," I said. "I'll return after work so the kids don't notice anything immediately." "Why are you intending to stay somewhere else?" she asked. "Why not stay here? We cannot handle this problem if you leave." "Chris, please don't. I adore you and don't want to lose you. I'm not sure what I'll do if you leave me. Please, Chris, let's try to address this. There must be a way to reconcile." "I apologize, April," I said. "The only certainty I have right now is that I no longer love you. Your cheating last night ruined my love for you. That's all I know for sure. I'm not sure what I'll do next, but I know there's no turning back now." "Chris, what about your vows to love and cherish me?" she asked. "Have you forgotten them?" "I also remember your vows to me on our wedding day," I replied. "You promised to put everything else aside, but you didn't. You pledged to love only me, but you shared what we had with another man. I cared for you, loved you, honored our marriage vows, and gave you all I had. It was not sufficient. You gave something to someone else. You handed it away, breaking my heart in the process. So yes, I can get past this. You shattered my love for you to pieces. I can leave you and I will. I went to Clyde's place, and he invited me to stay as long as I needed. It's time to finish what we started, I told myself. Soon it will all be over, and I'll start over. In the coming days, I balanced work with evenings spent with my children. However, I avoided any additional interactions with April despite her attempts to engage. She yelled once, but I just left without saying anything. During a work break, a colleague informed Clyde that the preparations were complete and we would have results in a few days. All that was left was patience. The schedule remained unchanged until the next week. Every evening I returned to a more agitated April. The kids were unconcerned, but Charlie's question about my long hours provided reassurance. He appeared satisfied, and the brief crisis subsided. April persisted with her queries, but I ignored her and left after she put the kids to bed. By the end of the week, Clyde entered the break room and handed me a folder without saying anything. I opened it and found a brief report. Carl Cummings, a 24-year-old junior attorney at Lincoln, Rice & Holmes, got divorced 2 years ago. He was financially secure, dwelling in a condominium that April had visited several times that week. Now that I had his name and address, I wondered what attraction he possessed that had eluded me. However, it was no longer my concern. Had April approached me earlier, perhaps the situation could have been handled differently. So, what happens next? I asked Clyde. What steps should I take? I sought Clyde's advice despite the problem being mine. Clyde seemed to be the one in charge. I felt blessed to have friends and a brother like Clyde. Being a kind man and a hard worker earned me loyal friends, and now I needed them more than ever. Everything is in progress, Clyde said. The first move occurs tonight. I'll call you once everything is arranged. Just keep your phone close. You can inform her and put an end to this situation. Okay. Knowing what needed to be done did not provide relief. This was not my preferred strategy. However, April and her lover gave me no choice but to fight back. This was the only way I could. I wasn't an attorney or a rich strategist. I was a mechanic and industrious individual who was proud to provide for his family through honest work. April had a special meaning for me, but my efforts were insufficient for her. Fine. My plan was compatible with my world, and she would soon realize it. When I returned home, I joined my family for dinner as usual. April interacted with the children, and I participated in conversations and activities while concealing my nervousness. After dinner, I spent quality time with the kids playing video games and helping with homework, playing the typical husband and father. April, who had just finished the dishes, looked around, appearing more at ease, as if she expected everything to return to normal soon. While I was playing video games with my boys, Carl Cummings left his office and drove across town. He reflected on the intense encounter with April at his house 2 days prior. When he asked why she was so relieved that he had finally agreed to get intimate following their rendezvous, she revealed that her husband had discovered their affair. Carl was shocked, but she reassured him not to worry. It struck him as strange that her husband's knowledge seemed to increase her adventurousness. Regardless, it was the best physical experience he'd had, so he dismissed it. Walking past an alley toward his car, he stumbled and felt a pull. As he struggled to keep his balance and avoid falling, someone grabbed his arms and dragged him down the alley to a courtyard where he was pinned against the building's wall by 2 imposing figures, one on either side. He tried to see their faces beneath their black ski masks. Despite their intimidating size, fear began to creep over him. He had little money and no flashy accessories, so he wondered what they wanted. A third masked man wearing gloves stepped forward, lifting Carl's face with a firm grip under his chin. "Are you familiar with a woman named April Phillips, idiot?" he asked in a firm tone. Carl got a shiver down his spine when he heard her name. So that's what this was about, her damn husband. She never mentioned that he was involved. "No, I don't know anyone with that name," he stammered, shaking but determined to deny everything. The heavy man delivered a blow to his ribs, causing excruciating pain and stealing his breath. Dizzy, he noticed stars swirling before him. The intense agony gripped him, instilling deep fear. "I'll ask again," the man said. "You're familiar with a woman named April Phillips, idiot?" Unable to deceive any longer, Carl abandoned denial. "Yes, I know her," he said. "Please, God, let me make it out of here alive," he prayed silently. "You'll never cross paths with her again." "Clear? Crystal clear," Carl said. "I get it. Perhaps it was merely a warning." He could accept that. "I need to ensure you grasp this fully," the big man explained ominously. "My pals and I aren't convinced someone like you messing with other men's wives is all that bright, so we're going to make sure you comprehend." Ceasing their pressure against the wall, they allowed him to steady himself. The initial blows struck him hard in the groin, causing him to double over. Despite his agony, they prevented him from collapsing, delivering another blow to his ribs. A sharp click signaled a broken rib. Then came a devastating blow to his jaw, nearly toppling him with pain. Subsequent strikes hit him in the groin until, mercifully, he blacked out. They likely continued their assault until they stopped. Gradually brought back to consciousness, they drilled a few words into him repeatedly. His memory faded until he awoke in Memorial Hospital's emergency room. While his injuries weren't life-threatening, he was admitted to the general care unit, heavily medicated and in intense pain. Grateful for his survival, he whispered a prayer. They informed him that she might contact him, instructing him precisely what to say. He recalled the words he needed to convey to her. "I deeply apologize, Mrs. Phillips. It was my fault and I deeply regret it. I will cease all contact with you and your children. I'm sorry our paths ever crossed.
Farewell."
Carl reclined on the bed, awaiting her call. He rehearsed these words in his mind to avoid any errors. He reminded himself that any deviation would not go unnoticed, and the consequences would be severe. Repeating the phrases to himself once more, he vowed never to pursue a married woman again, regardless of who she might be. Just past 8 o'clock in the evening, while playing with the twins, my cell phone rang. Excusing myself to another room, I took the call. Seeing Clyde's caller ID, I heard a brief message: "It's done. Lesson 1 completed." He was admitted to the hospital. Then the call ended. Returning to the living room with a smile, April noticed but said nothing, returning a smile herself, interpreting it as good news. Later, April took the children upstairs, casting a questioning glance at me. I assured her I'd be there when she returned. She smiled broadly and went about putting the children to bed. Settling into the living room, I waited in anticipation. The moment of reckoning had arrived. As April returned with a coffee pot and cups, she suggested we talk further, noting my apparent resignation. She expressed relief, professing her love and fear of losing me over such trivial matters in comparison to our relationship's depth. I observed her as she spoke, her beauty still captivating me. After all, she was the woman I cherished for so long, envisioning a future of growing old together. But now those plans, those dreams, lay shattered. "Let the end commence now." "April," I began, "I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen carefully. I know your lover's name is Carl Cummings, a junior associate at Lincoln, Rice & Holmes. I know all about him, including your 2 meetings with him this week." April appeared surprised, poised to respond, but I motioned for her to remain silent. "That's the issue," I continued. "You threatened me with divorce when I expressed my anger. You threatened to strip away everything I have. I remember your exact words etched into my mind. You said, 'I'll take everything you have.' You said more, but those were the words that lingered, words dripping with contempt that shattered our marriage. Those were the words that pushed me into a corner where I felt I had no choice but to watch you engage in intimacy with another man. I told you the following night that cornered rats fight back." Now I could see the initial fear and discomfort on her face. She wasn't certain what lay ahead, but she was savvy enough to realize it wouldn't be to her liking. Her shoulders tensed and she instinctively withdrew her head in defense. "I know you told Robin that I never made you feel the way you felt with him, that you were his tramp," I continued. "I don't regret that this will end in a manner unfavorable to you. However, Mr. Cummings has been explicitly informed that his involvement with you is over. He'll never see you again or engage in any further intimacy with you. Never. He was also cautioned against any contact with my sons, to which he agreed." Watching her face register shock and disbelief, I proceeded. "I'll initiate divorce proceedings citing infidelity with no spousal support for you. Child support will be provided for my sons, ensuring they lack nothing. As long as you fulfill your duties, I'll ensure you have the means, but you'll need to work for your own desires. I'll handle the paperwork, and you'll be served." April rose, anger evident on her face. "You're delusional if you think I'll agree to this," she retorted. "I'll take everything you have, just as I promised," still defiant despite her fear. She intended to bluff until the very end, as she had strategized. "Why don't you call your Mr. Cummings right now?" I said. "Let's see his response." "Wait, believe you might need to dial the hospital. That call I received earlier informed me he's in the emergency room at Memorial. I presume the news has reached you by now. Use my phone. I already have his number." April gazed at me in shock. "What have you done? What happened to Carl?" "Oh my God, Chris, what did you do?" "Why, April, are you seriously asking me?" I replied. I've been here at home with you all evening, and I was at work earlier, so I couldn't have done anything to anyone. Why do you think I did something? Why would I even think to injure your lover? You made it abundantly clear that I should steer clear of the situation. It's none of my concern." My demeanor surely frightened April. She had never seen me like this. I was typically calm and passive, never causing injury to anyone. I wouldn't even discipline the children physically, leaving that to her. Now she viewed me differently. My expression was cold and stern, my eyes devoid of emotion. April entered the next room, and I overheard her speaking on the phone. She returned with tears in her eyes, collapsing into a chair and staring into the distance. I remained composed, picking up the newspaper. I knew what she had heard on the phone. Her lover was ending things with her. Faced with the choice of that or enduring a beating each time he encountered her, that was the ultimatum delivered to him by 3 imposing men who intercepted him as he left work earlier. They made it clear why they targeted him and what repercussions awaited if he dared to see or speak to April again. They ensured he fully comprehended the message. April dried her tears, took a deep breath, and addressed me. "Well, it seems you've gotten your way," she said. "Carl's done with me. He never wants to see me again. He mentioned that all my belongings will be returned to me, and he has no desire to communicate with me." "In that case, you have nothing to fret over," I responded, setting the newspaper aside and rising to depart. "I have legal representation, so they'll handle everything swiftly. I'll speak with the boys this weekend and explain why we're divorcing. Perhaps they're mature enough to grasp the situation. If not, they'll eventually understand as they grow older." As I made my exit, I glanced back to see April sobbing. "If I recall your words correctly, April," I said, "you once claimed this affair would be short-lived and we could return to normal. You're still young and attractive, April. Maybe you'll find someone willing to indulge your fantasies, someone open to an unconventional marriage, allowing you to pursue multiple partners. That wasn't me, but that's just my perspective. Best of luck." Children may not comprehend this, but adults must face the consequences of their actions, and those consequences can be harsh. April sat alone in the darkened living room, the silence heavy after Chris stormed out. Her hands trembled, clutching the coffee cup, now cold. She'd always seen herself as the anchor of their family, the one who kept the home warm, while Chris toiled at the garage. 8 years of marriage, 2 beautiful boys, a life she'd built brick by brick. Yet it was crumbling, and she couldn't pinpoint when the cracks began. It wasn't Carl. Not really. He was a spark, a fleeting escape from the monotony that had crept into her days. She loved Chris, adored his steady presence, his calloused hands that fixed everything but her growing restlessness. Motherhood had consumed her each day a blur of lunches, laundry, and bedtime stories. She'd lost herself somewhere between Chris's long hours and the boys' endless needs. Carl, with his easy charm and reckless attention, made her feel seen again, alive in a way she hadn't in years. She hadn't meant to hurt Chris. The affair was supposed to be a secret, a stolen moment to reclaim a piece of herself. She'd convinced herself it wouldn't touch their marriage, that she could keep both, the passion with Carl and the love with Chris. But hearing her own words through Robinso, careless and cruel, she saw the ugliness of her choices. Now Chris's cold eyes haunted her, his voice echoing, "You shattered my love for you." Tears fell as she realized she'd underestimated him. She'd thought he'd stay, bound by duty, by their boys. But Chris wasn't the man she could manipulate anymore. The threat to take everything, house, kids, his pride, was a desperate bluff, born of fear that he'd leave her alone with her mistakes. She didn't want Carl, not truly. She wanted the April she used to be before life dulled her edges. The phone lay silent. Carl's abrupt end to their affair stung, but it was Chris's resolve that terrified her. She'd pushed too far, cornered a man who'd only ever loved her. Now she faced a future where she'd be the villain in her son's eyes, the woman who broke their father's heart. Could she rebuild? Could she face herself? The kitchen clock ticked.